gentlemen,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the LCO, the Live This by Menu Log. It's time for Menu Log meal time, and we're going to have a quick chat about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the LCO, the Live This by Menu Log.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Matchfix. I'm Amelg, and I'm joined by the COVID negative, but permanently positive, stay-at-home second, Shark.
Hey, I'm Shark.
Week 1 of the LCO has just gone by, and what a week it was. There's a lot of action across the board, and a lot of funny moments. But let's break down the best matches from the week, starting with day 1, with Peace versus Direwolves.
I think the game overall, it was very interesting. You know, like Peace, they're a team that in the past, they've always struggled with macro, and they've always needed really, really big leads in order to kind of make up for their macro deficiencies and actually carry them through the late game. They never had problems with individual skill, but just in terms of as a team, they've never really just been one of those teams that has really strong team play fundamentals. So this game, I think, where they actually fell behind early, in fact, Tien was getting kind of rolled by Teemo versus Gwen matchup in top.
Reset, so... Oh! Zonas has just got... Oh my god, okay.
So Tim is the greatest character in the game, and
oh no.
He's hit us with the thumbs up because that's the first blood.
He's actually fell behind early game, and it was really rough for them. They, like I was saying before, they were a team that relied on getting ahead early, and it looks like they still are that sort of team. They fell super behind early, especially in top side, and I think it made the rest of the game really, really difficult for them.
I think that the Soreness with the Teemo 5 pick, I think it was pretty shocking. I don't know. I think that's actually, I searched it up afterwards, and it was actually one of the first, I think the first ever Teemo pick in O's history. I guess after the game, we know now why it isn't picked. But still, Zoreness doing a pretty good job in lane, at least.
Peace ended up in this situation where they didn't really have a lane to play through, I felt like. Typically, Peace's mid-jungle is something that they can play through, but again, a champ like Ahri is very, very difficult to gank. And that could actually be a problem, just these sorts of champs in general for Peace. There's a lot of them in the current meta. Stuff like Ahri, Lissandra, Azir, very safe, very difficult to gank champions. That can kind of neutralize Peace's mid-jungle a lot. And then their bot lane was just playing for scaling. I don't think there's much Cog Soraka can do against, I think, Jhin Karma it was, so... Yeah, most of the lanes just playing for scaling. They didn't really have an avenue, it felt like, to really pressure the early game. And I think that's something Peace kind of needs. And the game was going really, really bad for them. I was actually kind of surprised how well Poltron was doing, given that Poltron's only played, I think, one competitive game before, and he stopped PGG's 13-game win streak or whatever. So I guess the guy has the secret sauce. But I also felt like the job was really hard for Lisa. He kind of had to run around the map, putting out fires kind of across the board.
You've got so much AP on your team already, but nevertheless, Gwen's ignited.
He's running him down. He's forced out Ghost from Tien. He's really not had a good time in this game.
Ghost and ult.
Down to bot lane we go though.
Caught.
Bulldog looking for the empowered Tevon towards Gunkrab. And
the game is getting really out of control. But I think at around 15 minutes or so, Violet managed to get a solo kill 1v2. It was actually ridiculous how much damage Kog'Maw does. That shouldn't be allowed. It's actually insane. He kills him in 3 or 4 autos or something. It was really ridiculous. Admittedly, they didn't bleed out too much. They were down a significant amount of gold, but they wouldn't it wasn't to the point where the game was ever unwinnable given their scaling. And then at 29-45, they actually executed a team fight really, really well. It was something I think Appy got a 5-man or 4-man Wukong ult, and also there was a really clutch silence onto the Ahri, and so they managed to win this fight, and then they kind of just got everything afterwards. With the insane comeback mechanics in this season especially, if you do get a miracle team fight, you get so much gold back off of it, and so they managed to win the game off of this team fight, but it definitely felt like this was a game Direwolves should have won.
I feel like the game as a whole is kind of an example of people's worst fears coming true with the combination of the durability patch making scaling more viable and the whole comeback bounty thing. When you combine them, it's just crazy because Direwolves, at their peak in the game, I think they were hit 7k gold and they were in soul point. And I remember just seeing the gold difference graph at the end of the game, and it was just Direwolves, and it just shot up to Peace, and then the game ended. But they made history. First ever Teemo pick in OS. Do you have any final thoughts on that?
What was kind of a little disheartening, I guess, to see is that despite Peace, like they definitely got individual skill upgrades in their bot lane, right? But they still suffer, I think, from many issues that they had in playoffs, like namely sort of poor macro, as well as like really like poor top lane champion pool on blue side, I think. So Teemo was just like one of many champions that could exploit that. And it'll be interesting to see how Peace kind of develop over the split and if other teams like pick up on that, because there's definitely enough time for Peace to fix it and also enough time for the meta to change. But if they don't, I would actually expect to see more like weird counter picks like this to come out.
Other than that, there were a few other close games. I think pretty much all the games actually had kind of a result that everyone was expecting. But there was one game in particular that a lot of people were looking forward to, and I myself was looking forward to, was the finals rematch, Order versus Chiefs.
Another turret lost, another ultimate forced, another chance for them to try and find that pick. All the attention goes on towards this Tom Kinch. He hits the thick skin, he's got the mitigation, they bait them again! The cannon barrage is going to come across and they've just hit them with a little bit of deja vu. They're disengaged away, look!
It was bloody, but not really in the way you'd expect. Order just kind of got rolled, and as an Order fan, I'm a little bit gutted. I stayed up to watch that because it was the last game of the day, and yeah, not happy.
So I think this game was pretty interesting, even starting from the draft. So the kind of drafts that came out, you had this comp on Order's side that it's very high execution again. You know, they're playing champs like Ezreal, Karma, and Zoe, which if they're ahead, you know, they do really well and they have the tools to get ahead, but naturally, like, they can be dealt with. And then on the Chiefs side, I actually really like what Chiefs did. Picking champs like Nocturne, I think makes it really difficult for champs like Zoe and Karma to play the game. Because he went the 5P Zoe into this comp, and I think it's a pretty hard game to play Zoe. The mid matchup's like quite good, I think, but just like looking at the champs like Nocturne, GP, and Lissandra, just like in team fights and stuff, is quite difficult for Zoe to deal with. So I'm not sure it's the best pick, but honestly, it is just quite hard to pick into Lissandra because a lot of the champs that do beat Lissandra in lane are kind of immobile and then struggle against the sort of combos that come out, like Nocturne, Lissandra, for example. I know Ray said in the interview after that picking Senatam into Ezreal Karma is like a self-counter pick, but they were very confident that they could play the lane.
Yeah.
But when I kind of look at this again from like a higher level, I feel like if you're drafting a team comp that is kind of like this, you know, Lissandra loses prior to Zoe. I think the bot lane should also lose prior. And then like, you know, you've got Nocturne and GP who aren't really spiking hard until level 6. It feels like with the strength of Order's lanes, you know, with the mid prior and the bot prior, they should be able to make this game really difficult for Chiefs to play before level 6. That being said, if the level of play like isn't high enough and like this punish doesn't come out, after level 6, it becomes really, really difficult to play champs like Karma into Nocturne, because it's like you always have to be playing aggressively bot, and you do have like the prior to get the vision, but it's like you can't have vision down all the time, and eventually like Nocturne is going to find a way to like punish you for being overextended. So it's quite difficult to play into if you don't set him behind, and they didn't really find an opportunity to do that. In fact, Nocturne managed to kill Karma pretty early, which, you know, it puts as Karma in a really rough spot. I do think Order as a whole, they did have like ways to win this game. I think Kize was doing a really good job playing like the mid lane. He was destroying Tally in this matchup, but he didn't really get the support he needed, I don't think. You know, they had this like super hard winning mid matchup that they could play around, and that was like one thing I was sort of expecting to see a bit more from Gudo. Like he kind of played that role with Kyose last split, where they were very much like a mid jungle 2v2. But this game, they actually mis-executed a gank at 9 minutes. I think Viego definitely could have killed Lissandra there, but he kind of like, well, he W'd the wrong place, and also Zoe missed bubble after, but either of them I think could have played it better, and that should have been a kill. And then just like a couple minutes after that, Zoe gets caught like playing aggressively under the enemy mid tower at 10 minutes 40, and Nocturne just ults her and kills her. And it was a really bad time to play aggressive because like her jungler was in base, and I think also no other lanes were really gankable at the time. So it sucks because Kize was playing so well, but he does make one crucial mistake, and that puts him really far behind. And then from that point, it was really rough. I mean, Tally, he was getting absolutely destroyed in lane, and then he made like 3 montage plays in team fights after that, like insane Lissandra flanks, and it just felt like Order again. They draft this like really high execution comp. They don't play it to the level it needs to be played at, and then they just kind of get steamrolled by Chiefs' like really easy to execute, like simple 5v5 team comp.
not looking too good for Order. I mean, obviously, you have Goodo, who's like the new jungler replacing Kevy, and there's still like a lot of question marks as to like how this new mid jungle duo is going to work. Are they going to be as good as Kevy and Kisei were last split? I do definitely think that like it is obviously too early to draw conclusions. It's the first week, and Order have gone against probably the worst team in Gravitas, and what's looking like will probably be the best team in Chiefs. So we kind of need to see them play against like more of a middle ground team, like I'm sure we will next week, to sort of start to get a better idea of how that jungle transition is working.
Yeah, I think also like you said, don't draw too many conclusions too early, because I think one thing that I've noticed in the past is that when teams go to MSI, so like this happened with PGG as well, when you play all those international scrims, you can get a very different kind of like read on how the game should be played. Like at these international events, the game is played at a much higher pace than it is here. And I think it's very, like when PGG went before, they came back and suddenly they, realized that kind of the early game at the time meant a lot. And they started playing champions and styles that they weren't particularly good at. I remember PGG originally was like a very strong team fighting team. And then for a while at the start of Split 2 last year, they played like a lot of like Lucian mid, for example, and I think they played stuff maybe like Callista bot or something. I actually can't remember if that was Callista specifically, but my point is that because they were getting exploited for early game at MSI, they were kind of like, okay, we also need to play early game. And I feel like that could have maybe been what happened with Order here. They've drafted, again, a high execution comp. And I feel like, if these were two very high level teams, we're talking, if this were a game between say like T1 and G2, I could definitely see Order's draft winning just through like virtue of its early game strength. But I think in OC, the game is played slower. Teams just aren't as good at punishing, and scaling is just like in general incentivized. So I don't think Order played this game as badly as people think. And I definitely don't think they should be written off. So yeah, we'll just have to see how they go over the rest of the split.
That's it for the matches this week, but let's take a quick gaze at the standings after week 1. Obviously, not too much exciting stuff going on after only 2 rounds of matches. But we've got Chiefs, Peace, and PGG sitting at the top, 2-0. Right below them, we've got Direwolves and Order sitting at 1-1. And the usual suspects in the bottom 3, we've got Kanga, Mammoth, and Gravitas sitting at 0-2.
I think it does definitely seem like there's a top 4 or maybe top 5. Direwolves seem a little bit better than I expected, and we're still not too sure about Kanga, right? They had a pretty tough schedule. So yeah, too early really to tell anything. So far, it just seems sort of as expected.
Yeah, business as usual. Well, there's a lot of new stuff in Split 2 for the LCO, so we're trying some new stuff of our own. We've got the LCO stock market. So this is going to be a segment where we talk about who are the biggest winners for the week, whose stocks are down for the week, and who are the biggest question marks going on. So we've got our biggest winner for the week, and that is Chiefs, obviously. Coming back from an undesirable Split 1 result, they've made a roster change in their support, and they've beat the Split 1 champs very, very easily, and they looked really clean doing it. So I have to see if that stock ever comes down in our lifetime. Anyway, moving on to, it's when I imagined it, I called it the biggest loser. Maybe it's a bit mean, but we'll roll with it for week 1. Might be a bit surprising to some people, but it's actually Peace for me. Obviously, we both had Peace at number 2 in our power rankings, and what they showed this week was definitely not what you would expect from a team that we expect to play second, right? They looked really shaky. It seemed like they weren't really able to find their footing in either of their games, despite them being like relatively easier matchups, right? They didn't really face any of the top teams. Even the players kind of agreed, like they were talking about it on Twitter, how they were like kind of disappointed with how they played and they needed to clean up their gameplay. Not a great week 1 for them. They are 2-0 up, obviously, but yeah, definitely needs to see some cleaner gameplay for us to have more confidence in them.
I think it definitely wasn't the start that Peace wanted, but I'm not ready to sell my my Peace stocks just yet.
Well, we have our winner, we have our loser, but who's the biggest question mark for the week? This is some entity that has kind of, not really shown enough for us to make a like good enough judgment. And that's going to be Kanga this week. Yeah, just the whole team, honestly, is just a question mark right now, right? Like they have 3 AD carry players, I guess, former AD carry players on their team. They don't even have a jungler. And despite that, they weren't too bad in their first week. Like, I think, like personally, I was expecting a lot worse, but they kind of held their own against both PGG and Peace, 2 of the higher tiered teams. Kanga getting the question mark because they're a pretty volatile investment, can kind of go either way, and yeah, I mean, they're the team you want to be spending your channel points on if you want to make some quick bank, that's for sure. Keep an eye out for those odds. And we're back with LCO moments for Split 2. Definitely some very exciting stuff for everyone involved, but somehow I think the most excited party was the LCO cast themselves. I don't know, things were definitely heating up in studio. It seemed like there was some sort of pent-up tension from not being able to see each other for a while. And that really showed on the broadcast.
Next time we get to work, we'll be next to each other. Woo!
We can touch grass and touch each other, Mac.
Yeah. Okay, you want a neck rub now to close the day out?
Sure,
or
mate, sure,
you wanna
mate.
wait?
Oh, this is
You're
good.
giving me one!
It's a hard job being a host, bro.
I thought I was the
Love your
masseuse
homies,
here.
mate.
Skimmy, you want to come over? You want to cast from here?
I could.
Yeah.
Have a cuddle cast?
Sharing's caring.
I'll have a couch to
Oh, come
myself.
in.
This is
Hello,
great.
guys.
I feel like
So this is our son.
It's real comfy.
First day back
Coming-
at school. I'm just trying to
You're looking good.
get a little bit lewd, eh? Ooh.
Ooh, hey.
Rub these knees for good luck.
I feel like a Roman emperor.
Make sure you kiss your homies. Or just for LCO
Don't you have to
for a
do something
little while.
like one of these things, like,
Oh well.
Jesus.
don't you have to do something like that? No?
Well, that's a new GIF.
Yeah, there must be something in the Sydney water or something, because Skimmy, he was really popping off this week. He's going to take it to a new level this split, I think.
Oh, manga readers?
Manga, yeah.
Anime readers.
Anime readers. Readable anime. That's what it is, right?
Sure.
Henga?
Manga.
Manga.
What
I
about
heard the
manga?
word H and
Manga?
or I heard the letter H and I
You
started
said
panicking.
ooh earlier, so
Bro, you were going down a very slippery slope, I tell you that much.
Another great moment was the return of Rue Fury. Missed him a lot. I think everyone was happy to see him once again on brand with his signature move.
look, guys, I want you to just real quick, just a couple of
Just
these
you two.
because we got Ree Fury on the line for the pre-match. Ree Fury, hello, there he is.
Hello, everyone.
Beautiful. Welcome
Yo.
back to the game.
Thank you. See you guys.
See ya.
Speaking of cute moments from the players, I always like Arthur's victory cams. You know, he's already got a little cute victory celebration going on.
Chiefs were just so squeaky clean throughout their entire game, so it was really disappointing to see Rays drop the ball at the end. That's one for the VOD review, I reckon.
For real, no kizzy. The real juice was in the Praetor's post-game video where he revealed that PGG and Chiefs are scrimming again. So I thought that was kind of a crazy revelation.
Chiefs are a very good team. We learned a lot of screwing them, so actually screwing them this split as well will probably mean that it'll actually be a two-team league this time.
They're scrimming the Chiefs finally.
Yeah.
Like, I think
That
that's
was-
that's such a big scoop.
Did anyone know that?
No.
Yeah, what's that saying? Like, yesterday's enemy is today's friend? Or was it today's enemy is tomorrow's friend? One of those. I think both of those can apply here. They've mended their relationship. We'll have to see how long that lasts. Last but not least, we had Skimmy with a very interesting business prospect, and I have to say, I'm definitely on board.
Let's have a look at the prize pool. First place is going to be taking home $15,000 US. So what would you do with 15K?
Move ESL to New Zealand.
Oh, move with 15,000.
This whole
that's-
office.
We'll start up. It's a
That's
brand new
ambitious.
kickstart.
Bitcoin or something, right?
Something like that, man.
Yeah,
We'll make it
beautiful.
happen.
How many more body pillars do you think you'd buy if you had 15k, Melg?
Maybe with 15k, you could actually elo boost yourself back to rank 1. It's been a while.
So how's it normally go? Like, thanks for watching this week's episode of the Matchfix. Catch us next week for your weekly fix or something like that.
That's all for today's episode. We'll catch you next time for your weekly fix. Don't use that. That's
All right, I'll probably one-shot it. All right, fellas, that's all we got for this episode. Catch us next week for your weekly fix.